Hey, this is Heidi Dawson. If you love all things health and wellness and style of any kind, hang out here with me each week. I'm obsessed with never-ending improvement, and it's all in an effort to help each one of us live a wildly successful lifestyle. Subscribe today so you don't miss a thing. Hi, guys. Welcome to episode 288 of the Wildly Successful Lifestyle Podcast. I hope this episode finds you living your version of a wildly successful lifestyle. And if you're not, are you working towards it? One thing I always do is if I'm not currently happy with where I am in whatever area of my life, I'm actively working to improve it. Or at the very least, I'm trying to decide what I want in that area so I know how to improve it and how to work towards that. In this episode, we're going to talk about cleaning up our environment and what our environment is, but also how our environment has so much to do with how we see ourselves and vice versa. Having a good mindset and feeling calm and relaxed and not overwhelmed, that's vital to our overall outlook on life, and it's hard to do when our environment is a wreck. I've heard this statement, how we do one thing is how we do most things. Now, I've heard that several times in the last year. And when I first heard it, I really wanted to disagree with that. I was like, no, not how we do one thing is how we do most things. I don't agree. But the more I've thought about it and the more I've kind of looked at different areas, the more I realize it's really true. For example, how the outside of your home looks is probably pretty indicative of how the inside looks. If someone doesn't cut their grass or make the outside of their home look really beautiful, they are probably not doing it on the inside either. Just like if someone goes out looking like they just rolled out of bed, clothes are wrinkled or dirty, or their hair's a mess, maybe it's dirty, I find myself often imagining subconsciously how their bedroom must look or the state of their home, how it must be a wreck. That is how our mindset and our life kind of follows our environment, and our environment follows our life. But does our environment only include our home? Well, no, of course not. Realistically, our environment can include every single place we go. The people we surround ourselves with, the things that we allow into our mind, that's all part of our environment. But for this episode, I really just wanted to talk about our home because that's the bare minimum of our environment, the part of our life that undoubtedly displays how we're doing in life. The way we care for our home will tell you a lot about how you view yourself. How often do you leave your house with dishes left in the sink? Or maybe your bed's unmade? There's clutter all over the place and all over the island. Maybe your front porch plants gave up months ago. There are a lot of things about our home that may be bothering us, but we just can't seem to find the time to change it. And listen, there's no judgment here. I'm going to be pretty vulnerable with you guys about this. I used to be pretty messy. And looking back at my life, I understand why. I was a wreck on the inside, and it was showing up in a lot of ways on the outside. When I was about 25, I was going through a divorce from my first husband, and we had 2 dogs, which I got to keep, thank goodness, Scotty and Alex. I loved them very much. But I was also working a lot. And look, those dogs would a lot of times go to the bathroom in the house. They were not very well trained. I did not train them well. And I would try to clean it up. I remember one time sitting on my living room floor, it was carpet, you can imagine, and just crying uncontrollably because of the state of my house, the state of my life, the state of my ability to care for my dogs the way they should have been. It wasn't good. So if this is you, or some version of that is you, there's hope. You don't have to settle for that. I look back at that girl crying on the floor and I send her so much love. It almost tears me up to think about it. And you know why? Because she didn't accept that as her lot in life. She slowly but surely started getting her life together. She got help through coaching. She read books and went to seminars and surrounded herself with people that raised her standards. She was doing the best she could at the time, all while knowing she deserved better and actively working towards it. She didn't just settle in and say, such is life. No way. No one was going to knock on my door and offer to help clean or help care for the dogs or get my mindset right. I had to do that. And I did. And I still work on it every single day. And if that sounds tiresome to you, imagine the weight of staying in the misery of being a wreck. That's a whole heck of a lot more tiresome. I can say that from experience. That girl's house, it mirrored her life. And at the time, my life was a wreck. So fast forward to this last weekend to get us out of that mess, right? Let's fast forward to this last weekend. I was with Eric. We were having dinner at a beautiful restaurant, all dressed up with 2 other couples. We were at a restaurant right around the corner from our house. And after dinner, one of our friends said, "Hey, we're coming to your house for after dinner drinks." And with no hesitation at all, we said, "Sure, that sounds good. Come on." I tell you this because when I was that young girl that was a wreck, if someone wanted to do that, just stop by without notice, I would have to make an excuse for why that wouldn't be possible. You know why? Because my house was most certainly not in a situation where guests could just stop by. In fact, I remember when I was younger, a friend was saying something. We were having a conversation, and she was saying that someone dropped by her house for coffee unexpectedly. And I looked at her and I was like, "Oh my goodness, like how did that work out? How did your house look?" And she kind of looked taken aback. She said, "Well, my house is always neat. Someone could stop by anytime." I was just so kind of shocked. I never really had experienced that, living in a home that was organized all the time and everything was in its place. I honestly didn't know people lived that way. Now, my house growing up was clean. It just wasn't neat, and it was very cluttered. So for me, it never occurred to me how awesome it could feel to live in a home that's not cluttered and is always what I like to call guest ready. So I realized right then, talking to my friend, okay, that's another area where I need to improve. So our home now is pretty much always guest ready. And it does not hurt that I'm married to a pilot that was in the military for years, because he's helped me so much with being neat because he is so neat. I just wasn't that neat growing up. That wasn't a big deal in our house. So that wasn't a habit I had grown up with. But having a home that's always guest ready feels so good. All we had to do when we walked in, when everyone was coming over for after dinner drinks, was turn on the lights and light a few candles. And we also had to put our journals out of sight because we do keep those on the island. But for the most part, when we leave the house is in a beautiful state. And here's the thing, we don't do it because we might have random guests. We do it because of how it makes us feel. We see ourselves as deserving a home like that. We see ourselves as worthy of that. I love coming home to a home that has fresh flowers or greenery. It smells nice and everything is in order. And so does my husband. It makes everything better when we're in an environment that makes us feel the way we want to feel. It makes our relationship better. It makes me want to make a meal at home instead of going out. It makes me want to dress better, to work out, to do all the good things for myself because I feel so good in my environment. It really does elevate my mood every time I walk into my beautiful, clean, uncluttered home. Makes me want to up-level every other part of my life as well, because that's how I view myself. How you do one thing is how you do most things, remember? So if you organize your home and have it looking amazing, will that elevate your life as well? Yeah, it will actually, because you're setting the standards for yourself that tell you you're worthy of so much more. You tell yourself you aren't settling for mediocrity anymore. You deserve better, and it'll show up in the way you dress, the way you eat, the way you see yourself in general. That's a new standard of your wildly successful life that you will only want to keep up leveling because you feel so good. And you know there's no judgment here if your house isn't guest ready. I've already confessed, I used to be pretty messy. This was an area I had to really step up my game, and once I did, it became a must because I just love the way it feels to come home knowing everything looks the way I want it to. And I talk about it in this way because I'm telling you it's a learned behavior. You may be like me and never experience living somewhere that's completely organized and uncluttered. That's okay. If I did it, so can you. Trust me, sometimes you just have to know it's possible, and it is. I got to tell you, it's amazing. I would never go back. I don't even think I could. It doesn't matter where you live, how big or small your home is, how much money you make. You can experience living in an organized, clean, uncluttered home that has fresh greenery and smells wonderful. That is something that is in your control and does not have to cost a lot of money. You just have to decide to elevate your standard. And this is a behavior you can learn. I did. I know this because I did it. My challenge to you this week is to up-level your standards for your home. Create a bare minimum list of 3 things that's doable, right? At the bare minimum, even on a day when you're not feeling it, what is your new standard? For me, bare minimum, bed is made, kitchen is clean, exterior front entry looks fresh and welcoming. Now that's the bare minimum for me. And to be transparent, my planters right now on my porch need a little refreshing up, which I will do today because that's a new standard I've decided for myself. Look out, front porch. Doing this will elevate more than your home. I promise you. I love you guys. I'll talk to you in a few days. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends because we're just going to keep going bigger and better places together, and I love that about us. Talk to you in a few days.